Let's break into it. Let's go. Combat starts now, folks. And it was this weekend in the UFC Norfolk, Virginia, a UFC Flyweight Championship bout, kind of, sort of. Here's what happened. Deiveson Figueiredo knocks out Joseph Benavidez in round 2, but he missed weight by 2.5 pounds the day before, was not eligible to pick up that championship title. So Chuck Mindenhall.
All right.
The title was supposed to go vacant the second they enter the cage, but we don't have a winner. We don't have a champion. I think that means Henry Cejudo is still your UFC 125 champion.
He believes he is.
What the hell happens next from this?
They shut it down, man. You know, I really believe that this might be the moment that they look at it and they shut it down. I mean, they've already lost, they've gotten rid of, I should say, a couple of the best flyweights in the world. Demetrius Johnson, Horiguchi's gone. There's a lot of these guys who they've basically ended the relationship with. This was designed for Joseph Benavidez. I really believe that. The whole division was designed all the way back in 2012 when it was brought out. Was Joseph Benavidez needed a place to be. He needed a place to be because of Dominic Cruz. He couldn't get back through. They wanted to create a division. And they finally get to the point, and it's resurrected to an extent. I feel like we've been talking pretty glowingly about the flyweights. They've been cracking a lot of the fights on the undercards this whole year and late last year have been pretty good. But Cejudo leaves, and now you get Benavidez who loses and really doesn't have a way back to a title shot. Nobody wants to see that. What are you going to do? Deiveson doesn't have the belt. Henry Cejudo's not going to defend it. This would be, if they're going to disband, if they're going to get rid of this division, this would be the time.
Here's the problem, though, Chuck. You ready for this, okay? I thought that would be my take coming in. Once Deiveson, I'm going to get very proper on the pronunciation because I'm trying to develop a good pronunciation. Figueiredo. That's not. I don't
think that's right.
Once Deiveson knocked him out, or once he missed weight, I'm sorry, I'm sort of like, wow, that's comical for this division. If Joseph doesn't win it, you're right. Doom is coming. Here's the problem.
You changed your mind.
Here's the problem. The fight was friggin' fantastic.
It was good.
It was 2 rounds
and a lot of them
of what elite level flyweight action in the UFC can be all about. You had Benavidez breaking out of the submission opportunities, rolling, constantly turning the momentum of that fight. You had back and forth. The early part of that second round was a war in terms of trading big shots back and forth. So the knee-jerk reaction is either fold it up or, hey, why don't we bring back Henry Cejudo and have a proper handoff between him and Deiveson Figueiredo? I've got a problem with that as well, and here's the deal, okay? He doesn't want to be at this weight class anymore, okay?
That is a problem.
That's a big-time problem because if he comes down and cuts one more time and beats Figueiredo, we're in the same spot. So here's my solution to you. There's a lot of flyweights I really like. I was reminded how much I like this division. Let's have a rematch. Let's have Benavidez and Figueiredo all over again. I know you can say, well, didn't we already learn what we're supposed to? Well, no. The man missed weight. He cost himself. Let's do that a second time. What happens if Benavidez wins? You have a natural trilogy there if he does. I don't think that's a horrible idea, Chuck. Say it to my face.
All right, so this event was a kind of almost a throwaway event. Like if you look at this card, hey, we could put a card in Norfolk. Look down that whole card and you're like, what was on it? It was just really this. And it was barely held together by this. It was not a very marketable fight, even with the backstory of Joseph Benavidez and even with Figueiredo being basically a guy that is like a mini Yoel Romero or something like that. Very different kind of guy.
How about the hair, by the way?
Yeah, but they still couldn't really set. Now imagine doing it again. I just don't feel like there's much of a mark. There's a lot of money that goes into having a champion in a division. Like, it's a different money set for the UFC. They're not stupid. I'm not sure they want to throw money to the, a champion, pay champion prices if they don't get a guy that's marketable.
Here's the deal. I don't like having a title fight headline a fight night. I don't care if it's Shevchenko against whoever's next in the division. I don't care if it's Demetrius Johnson when they expected him to get low ratings after proving he can't get big ratings and they throw him out on UFC Fight Night Kansas City. I think that a title fight belongs in a co-main event spot if it's not going to sell. Or if you're going to load up a super card, an IFW type card in July, then make it the 3rd biggest fight of the night. I get what you're saying on there, but this is something we've said to the UFC and Dana White from the beginning. Like, piss or get off the pot. Make a friggin' decision. The fact that we're still going forward with this, then let's commit to it. You may have a changeover of champions for the next 2 years, but is that awful?
It's a weird time for them to recommit to something that they committed to and already started to dismantle. That's the only problem. They were half through the process when Henry Cejudo basically got the title, and then there was like a new blush in the cheek type of thing with the division. Even though that's the case, I don't even know if there's 20 total flyweights on roster right now for the UFC. I know that for a minute there weren't. So the division has been decimated by just kind of push brooming guys out the door. And now if they want to restore it, it's a weird time to do that given the flux at the top.
It's tough.
I could see them doing it. But I'm just saying, like, if they're going to have cold feet about keeping it going, this would be the moment that they'd say, okay, the flyweight's done.
I do believe they have to make a decision and stick with it. There is an opening to close it because of how badly this was all mangled and damaged, and you got to throw some shade at Davison for not being able to make weight there. But what I didn't like about this fight coming in, despite the Fight Night main event status, was Benavidez is your ultimate long-serving bridesmaid, a great, maybe an all-time great fighter who is really on that short list with Dan Henderson, where Bisping used to be of the greatest guys in the UFC history to never win a title.
How ironic was it that Bisping's the guy to go interview him right afterwards? Too? I felt like that was just this extra little.
I feel
twist.
your pain, but in the end, the fight that should have happened was Benavidez and Cejudo in my mind, because Benavidez had a recent win over him in 2016. It was a fight of the year. It was fantastic. But it's also piss or get off the pot for me from the standpoint of Cejudo. In double champions in general, I like when people get a chance to win 2 championships at one time. It shows your greatness. I also don't love how UFC has picked and choose who gets to be a double champ for a long time. Right now, Amanda Nunes, for as long as she wants. But people like DC get stripped right away.
At featherweight, right?
I almost feel like there should be a rule. You can win 2 titles, but you have to be stripped of one and be done with that division. It's almost as if winning a title in a second division, which typically happens in the weight above you, is your graduation into the new weight class. So from that part, it's a clean break and a clean divide. So as much as I think Davison Figueiredo looked fantastic, as much as him versus Cejudo is an interesting fight, they got to make a decision on the division, and Cejudo's just got to stay north in my point of view.
No, he does. That's the only problem with it. If Cejudo was still kind of saying, like, I want to fight at flyweight, I want to defend that belt, it would be a little bit different. But the fact that basically he wants nothing to do with flyweight at this point, I think he really takes the credit too. Obviously he should, for kind of resurrecting it and giving it second life. But he's moved on, and that's kind of where we've left things. And just given that that's the situation, it's just kind of a mess. It was the worst case scenario for Figueiredo to miss weight, because you just needed some continuity. You needed something to happen. You needed the page to turn and something good to keep happening in that division. And you got kind of the worst case scenario.
Hashtag justice for Joe. Make the rematch. I'm telling you. And it's not because I love Benavidez and respect him so much that I want to see him finally. I mean, 2 losses to Cruz at the highest level, 2 losses to Johnson at the highest level. But
I was gutted for him, man. I mean, the bottom line is that this is a guy who has been after this for so long. It's never going to be tailor-made for a guy to go in there and have his moment like it was this past weekend, and he still did not get it done.
Shout out to his wife, who had a very supportive tweet out there, very reminiscent of Mr. Weidman running in and saying, "Chris is still my son," as cringe as that was, and it was cringe. On this card, UFC Norfolk, the other sort of interesting title discussion dilemma here is what's going on at women's featherweight. Heading into the card, 145 champ Amanda Nunes did announce, I want to fight at UFC 250 on May 9th. Of course, that's the Jose Aldo against Captain Cringe fight.
Yes, of course.
And she would like to see somebody from this UFC Norfolk card over the weekend make a statement. Well, 2 people made very large statements with first-round stoppages by submission and knockout, Megan Anderson and Felicia Spencer. Should either of them get the title shot next? Who should get it next? Should they fight each other? Where do you sort of sit right here?
Well, that was the entire featherweight division fighting in Norfolk. I would say, just on basic MMA math, that Spencer gets it, right? Because she just beat, not even a year ago, she just won against Megan Anderson. So the bottom line is, if you just look at that, I don't think you could make a case the other way. So it seems like kind of like an easy decision if the UFC really wants to make that Amanda Nunes is next. And if they want to keep that division going, which is even more puzzling. These were 2 like almost extinct types of divisions we're talking about in this card in Virginia. But if they want to keep it going, that's the fight to make.
And you can still check UFC.com/rankings. More than 3 years into this division, we still don't have rankings, which tells you a lot about it. I don't like anybody who's saying
not even any of those. They're not even listed.
I don't like anyone who's saying they need to fight each other. They just fought a year ago. Spencer proved in that fight with a first-round submission. It was a weird fight. She took Megan down, worked really hard, got the submission, but she sort of proved she's a one-up on her in that case. I don't think they should fight each other a second time because you have no contenders in this division. I'd like to see the 2 of them eventually get title shots in the near future. Megan Anderson made the bigger statement, I thought, on Saturday. That one-punch knockout, I forgot the name of the fighter she fought. Do you have it off the top of that dome up there?
Was it a
Dumont?
Something like that.
I made it up. Whatever. Anyway, it was a woman in the UFC. It was fantastic. I think it showed you that her evolution has been slower than we thought. Holly Holm really broke her in. It was baptism early, lost that fight to Spencer. But we've got 2 viable contenders for the belt.
It's good.
Let's keep building on that. Let's get to that point.
Good for Anderson, too, because I know that she struggles to even get in there. She has some nerves, things like that. I thought she looked probably better than she ever has in the UFC. So it's good to see somebody catching momentum, too. And if they can form any kind of queue at that division, that's shocking development, right? Because for so long, there's been nothing. So
I mean, you don't see one-punch KOs often in the female side in any weight class, right? I mean, when Andrade had that one over Kovalkiewicz, we were like, holy cow. And we just saw one recently. And I can't remember it. This is a great show so far. But the point is, when you make that kind of statement, she's a 6-foot-tall featherweight, and she's got a bright future, can really fight on the ground. I like to see where this is going, indeed.